is positivism? What have you heard of it?
So it is a theoretical paradigm.
Theoretical paradigm. Okay, so what is paradigm? Well, positivism. So let's have a discussion on this positivism. This topic is indeed very important in syllabus of most universities and colleges, and in UPSC we have this in the very beginning. We can relate it to some other topics also. We can relate it to emergence of sociology, and we can also relate it to another. There is a topic called Epistemology of Knowledge, which is not exactly mentioned, but still we can relate it to it. Epistemology is nothing; it's just a heavy word, fancy word. We will deal it in future in some other day. But positivism is, this discussion is useful on it because epistemology means the way we go for search of knowledge. Epistemology is the study of how to get knowledge, how to get the true knowledge, how to get the best knowledge, what is the best way. So positivism says that one of the best ways to get the knowledge is through scientific methods. So that's why this discussion is relevant as far as the discussion of science is concerned in epistemology. So forget this if it's not fine with you still. So let's come back to this positivism. So whenever there is a question on positivism, we'll focus in the first part of our lecture. We will focus on positivism. Pay attention to it because this will create sound foundation for you. And once it is done, then we will see criticism of positivism. So whenever there is a question on positivism, you must remember. You must remember two things. Two things which should quickly come to your mind is, whenever there is a question on positivism, one is science or scientific methods. Okay? One is science or scientific methods, and the other is general laws. These are the two core aspects of social and this positivism. So let's go to a story.
Sir, it is general laws.
Yeah, general laws. Positivism gives focus on scientific methods. It prefers scientific methods in research and in studies. It has a love for science, positivism. And the second part is that positivism, it wants to obtain general laws about society. So let me take you to a story. And before that story, just imagine something about you. Suppose you are going through a very turbulent phase of your life. Your life is extremely turbulent. You just don't know what to do. Something like this is taking place in your life. Your life is so much in trouble. Everything you are doing is going the wrong way. The life is not falling into places. There is a lot of chaos. Suppose you have migrated to a new city. Suppose you have taken a new job. And then the things are not settling down. And in spite of your best efforts, the life is going into a chaotic situation. Everybody is having troubles with you. Your parents think that you don't love them, even though you are the best son or daughter. Your employer thinks that you are not paying attention to him or her. And in the job respect, people say that your employer is thinking that you're not paying attention to the job. In studies, you're not getting good results, even though you're putting your good efforts. There is complete chaos, and you're just so much trouble that you don't know what is happening in my life. Why my life is so messed up? What should I do? And this is even when you are taking the best efforts to improve your situation in life. Okay. So something similar was taking place when around 200 years ago, maybe 150 years ago or 200 years ago, there were people who were very much troubled in their life. I will name three of them. And these were also guys who are so much troubled, so much perturbed about the concerns of the life. I'm sorry for these cartoons, I can't draw them very well. So one was Saint Simon, note down these names. Another was Auguste Comte, and the third was Emile Durkheim. So these three guys, and especially these two, Saint Simon and Auguste Comte, they were very much perturbed about what? Just like your life is in mess, in those days the society was in mess. Right now we are saying that the life is in mess. There the society was in mess. Why? Because after French Revolution, there was a lot of chaos in the society. There were robberies, there was dacoits were there, crime was increasing, equality was still not there, and even though for the namesake we had abolished monarchy, even though equality should have come in, but it was not the case. Society was going through a turbulent phase, and just like I gave you an example, you have moved to a new city. But imagine in those days people were moving from rural areas to urban areas. Why? Because industrialization was taking place, because urbanization was taking place. So for this led to very chaotic situation. Inequality was increasing, crime was increasing, urbanization was bringing its own problems like slums, industrialization was leading to other problems. So all these problems and people don't know what to do. Just like you don't know what to do in your life. So suppose when you are in such a mess, what you do? You go and seek help of a doctor, right? Seek help of a doctor, or what I should rather say, a clinical psychologist. Why psychologist? You could have also taken help of suppose two other people. One is a priest or a magician. Suppose a priest or a magician who would just tell you about that your problems are because of your certain planets are not in order, or the God is not favoring you, or you had done some sin. Will you go to a person like that? Possibly not, because we know that okay, religion is manipulating people. We don't have trust in them to that extent. Second is you can go to a philosopher or a friend of yours who is a philosopher friend. He will narrate some poetry, some ghazal, and he will tell you that okay, he will come out with some fancy quote or some Ghalib or some other poet. Even then you are not happy about him. You don't want to hear about Ghalib or Shakespeare or any other philosopher. All you want is a scientific explanation, because you have faith on science. That is why you are going to a clinical psychologist, because psychologists, they are trained in their subject in a scientific manner. They put years of rigorous studies. They leave their common sense behind. They leave their prior prejudices behind, and then they will come up to you and provide you an explanation which is free of their, as I said, prejudices, and which is free of. It's not supposed to be based on some tricks or magic. It's not supposed to be based on some concepts of God or religion, but rather you have more faith on them. That's why people go to clinical psychologists who can tell them what is wrong in your life. Similarly, these people, they were perturbed about society. Just like you are perturbed about your brain, they were perturbed about society. Society was very chaotic. A lot of problems were there. So what they could have done? They wanted to go to a psychologist of society, a doctor of society. But who was such a doctor of society? Was there anyone who was studying society in those days? Who?
Philosophers.
Philosophers were there, right. But as I said, even a philosopher a friend of yours can give you explanation about problems of your life, but you will not be able to have develop trust on that. You will say that, okay, no, yeah, I'm a student of science, I'm more concerned about it. I don't believe these things, that problems are taking place because of this thing or that thing. But give me a concrete explanation, a scientific explanation. So philosophers were there, and philosophers were criticized. But you are right in saying that philosophers did study society, but philosophers studied society using some romanticization. Sitting in their rooms or verandas, or sitting on some armchair, sitting under a tree, they came out with their conceptions of reality, how life should go, how society should go. It was not based upon any experimentations. It was not based upon any analysis. So that is why these people, Saint-Simon and Auguste Comte, they were very much impressed with science. In those days, or a few centuries before, a lot of discoveries have been made by Newton. You remember Newton, who came up with his laws of motion. Similarly, planetary laws, Kepler and all, they had come up, and biological evolution theory. Given by whom? Charles Darwin. Just confirm on that. So lot of progress was being made in science. Telescope and all these scientific microscope they were invented. They were able to eradicate or get rid of some diseases. Vaccination. Louis Pasteur he came up with these. So these people they were very much impressed by Newton and these kind of scientists, and so they go and talk to Newton. Not exactly, because Newton belonged to a different age. Even these three people belong to a different age kind of, but for a conception I am telling you, and put their names together. So these two, Saint-Simon and Auguste Comte, they were very much impressed by these scientists of their time, and they go to them and say that, okay, please study society, please come and study society just like you study science. So just like in science you come up with general laws. Now Newton's laws of motion, if you have studied somewhere in your high school I guess, Newton's laws of motion, 3 laws. One very famous law is the third law, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So these kind of laws are universal. It's not Newton's laws will be applicable in one country and not applicable in another country, or these laws will be applicable on white people and not on black people, or on women or not on women. These are universal, these are grand, they cover the whole society, I mean the whole world. So just like scientists are coming up with grand laws to study society, they are coming up with general laws. Similarly, someone should come and form general laws of society. That's why I have written here general laws of society. And how do you form these general laws of society? Through scientific methods. So using scientific methods which these scientists were using in physics, in astronomy, in chemistry, in biology, Auguste Comte and Saint-Simon wanted that some people should study society using those scientific methods and come up with general laws of society. Using these general laws of society, they should be able to predict the future. When I say predict the future, they should be able to tell, okay, this problem is because of this reason, or these problems are going to emerge in the future. And once we can know, once we are able to predict the future, future of what? Future of society. See, even magicians predict future, maybe. Even magicians predict to some extent. They also do tricks. But positivists do not want to go on those footsteps. Positivists say you should come up with these predictions only on the basis of scientific facts, something which you can observe, something which you can do experiments upon. Once you can predict the future, then you know where to intervene. I will fill up gaps if there are any gaps here. What do you mean by scientific methods? Scientific methods, if you want to expand these scientific methods terms, positivists like Saint-Simon and Auguste Comte wanted that scientific methods such as doing experiments, experimentation, and such as cause-effect analysis and comparative analysis. Some people they keep comparative analysis in a different league, but I will include it here. Even positivism, there are different types of positivism. There are different scholars who have come up with their own theories of positivism. We are mostly concerned with the positivism of Auguste Comte here because he was the one who made it most popular in this discipline. So whatever I am telling you is mostly the views of positivism of Auguste Comte. So he said using these tools, experimentation, cause effect, comparative analysis. Experimentations, why they want to focus on experimentations? Because experimentations mean empirical facts. Only those things which you can see with your eye, only those things should be trusted. No armchair analysis. So we should talk about facts. Empirical means which you can test through experiments, which you can verify through experiments. So only those things you should base your analysis upon. Cause effect analysis, for example, just trying to form this is a cause, this is an effect. Like cause effect analysis, we know when CO2 increases, then it leads to global warming. This is a kind of cause effect analysis of global warming. We are not bringing in any metaphysical explanation of global warming, that global warming is because of people are doing sin. No, global warming is because CO2 is increasing. This is a scientific explanation, and this is also a cause-effect analysis. Comparative analysis is, for example, you want to compare between two societies, or suppose one society at different period of time. So suppose you want to compare, like Durkheim compares division of labor in old society and new society, or suppose in today's day, today you want to compare women have freedom more in nuclear families or joint families. So whenever we make a comparison, for example, nuclear families versus joint families, to find out where the position of women is better, where do they have more freedom. So this is an example of comparative analysis. Another example which I said you, division of labor, which Durkheim studied in traditional versus modern society. We will take up this in future. This is an example of comparative analysis. Cause effect I already provided you. So using experiments, using cause effect, using comparative analysis, one should come out with general laws of society. Using these general laws of society, we should be able to predict the future, and when we can predict the future, then we know where to intervene, and then we can do reconstruction. What we can do? Reconstruction in society. We can do reconstruction of society, or we can intervene in the society. For example, what positivist would, let me give a real life example of this. The positivist would see a problem in our society. Suppose they see child labor. So we have a lot of child labor, or we have a lot of child sexual abuse. So why is it taking place? They will go and compare facts. They will go and look for quantification of data. And using these things, they suppose they are able to come out with an observation that poverty is leading to, suppose they come up with an cause effect analysis that poverty is leading to child labor. Poverty leads to child labor. Or suppose another positivist, he comes out with the data to show that how pornography it's leading to sexual crimes against women. Okay. So these are some kind of cause effect analysis. And how they would be conducting their research? Based on some data. They would go and get data from some government organization or some NGO, or they will themselves carry out surveys using so based upon these data, they are, and based upon these cause effect analysis, they are supposed able to tell that poverty is leading to child labor, pornography is leading to sexual crimes against women. And now once we are able to develop this kind of a law, then we can intervene. How can we intervene? We will do something to get rid of this poverty. The government will provide some social welfare scheme to provide employment, like Manrega. We will do job and employment schemes. The government will come up to remove the problem of poverty. Otherwise, you cannot get rid of child labor. Similarly, the government will ban pornography. So what are these steps? These are intervention by the state. These are interventions. So you are positively intervening in the society, so the society can improve upon. These were the intentions of initial positivists. Are you getting? Is the picture clear to you now? This may look very simple, but you need to have this clarity on this, because on the basis of this only, we will be able to criticize positivism. This will form the basis upon which we can criticize positivism. So in positivism, some more aspects of positivism, if I tell you like what people think about positivism, there are few more aspects related to positivism. You can see that there is a quantification of data. There is an emphasis on quantification. Okay, in positivism, there is an emphasis on quantification. Quantity, something which can be measured. We can measure the number of people sitting here. We can measure how much sugar you are carrying in your bag. We can measure how much milk you take. These are quantity. But what is quality? Quality is whether those students are good in studies or not. This is a quality. This is difficult to measure, somewhat difficult to measure. The sugar, how much sweet it is quality. The milk, how much pure it is a quality. So something which can be measured quantifically, using quantification, this is what positivism stress upon. Other thing which which is very important is that they reject common sense. They reject common sense. Okay. So the story so far is positivism is a belief. In general, positivism is a belief that that science should deal with only those things. Science should study only those things which it can study empirically, which it can study through direct observation. See, positivism exists outside sociology also. Positivism came in sociology. Before that, positivism existed outside sociology also. Positivism is a doctrine which says that science should study only those things which it can study directly.
Science?
Yeah, science, even science. Because there have been people who have invested their efforts to make science the way it is now. And similarly, when we talk about positivism in sociology, which throughout 90% of the time I am talking about, because this is a sociology class. So positivism in sociology means that sociology should also study those things which it can directly observe, or in other words, sociology should also look like science. Sociology should also footsteps the methodologies of science. This is what positivism in sociology is. So positivism, it was propounded by Auguste Comte. Okay, they had fascination for it. Auguste Comte and his teacher Saint-Simon. This is an interesting story. Auguste Comte, when he was of your age, very young he was, then he was expelled from his college. Just like we hear how JNU students, they were got into controversy because they were coming up with some protest. So on a larger scale, they were doing some protests or something like that they were doing, and then they were expelled from the university. The future was devastated. So Auguste Comte, he was given refuge by Saint-Simon. Saint-Simon adopted Auguste Comte and he trained him. So many of the things regarding positivism and their theories which we study, it's very difficult to differentiate whether it was said by Saint-Simon or Auguste Comte, because both of them had worked together. And there's also interesting part that once upon a time Auguste Comte was so much fascinated by Saint-Simon that he said that whatever I am in my life, it's only because of Saint-Simon. But then they fought on some issues and then they had a breakup. Dil par rakhkar patthar, breakup kar liya. And then after breakup, Auguste Comte, after some years, Auguste Comte went on to say that this Saint-Simon has no contribution in my achievements whatsoever. So this love-hate relationship they had. So Saint-Simon was who came up with this work of social physics. Saint-Simon was also very much influenced by science. In fact, his love for science was so much that when Saint-Simon was asked that how should society proceed, what should take place in society, then Saint-Simon was that we want withdrawal of military rulers and religious, or I should say priests. He was saying, Saint-Simon believed that in those days military rulers and religious priests, they had a great hold on the society. So they should withdraw, and in their place who should come forward? In place of military rulers, it should be chief of industries. And in the place of priests, we should have men of science. He used these words, men of science. So somewhere if you have to elaborate on Saint-Simon, though not many people ask questions on Saint-Simon, but you can still say that, okay, Saint-Simon, he wanted that chief of industries and men of science, they should govern society. So for example, like Ratan Tata and men of science like our late President Abdul Kalam. If these are the kind of people who govern our society, then our society will be in a better shape. So the point which I want to say is that his love for science, Saint-Simon's love for science is very much visible here. Auguste Comte, even if he had a breakup, but still their thoughts were more or less the same, especially on positivism and especially on love for science. They were very much fascinated by science, and they were thinking that just like scientists elsewhere in physics, they are coming up with general laws of astronomy, general laws of motion. Similarly, we will be able to have some general laws of society, with the help of which we can know why the problems are taking place in society. And once we can know why problems are taking up, then we can intervene, and then we can come up with solution. Now the picture clears to you? Just like you want to get rid of your problems, they wanted to get rid of the problem society, but nobody was studying society in particular. They were philosophers, they were political scientists also, they were economists also, but they were catering to one particular pillar of society. Political scientists would study only political aspects. Economics would study only about wealth or these things. But what about the general society, the mix-up of these things? Nobody was studying them. So they wanted that, okay, let's come up with a discipline, let's come up with a new subject which studies them. And furthermore, they didn't go to Newton actually. They lived in a different age. That just I said to elaborate that in fact they themselves founded this discipline. They themselves said that let there be a new discipline which studies these aspects. And that study discipline, once we get the discipline, we will be able to solve our problems. Problems of what? Problems of our society. See, initially I gave you an example of your life, but this was just an example because sociology is not concerned about exactly problems at an individual level. Sociology is not talking about individual human beings. That's more the domain of psychology. So sociology is more concerned when there are groups of humans, whether thousands, whether hundreds, even two groups of people. Even if a husband-wife relationship is there, which we call a dyad, a group consisting of two people, a relationship consisting of two people, even that sociology can study. Fine. So now there are two more things which will with which we will end this discussion. Yes. So much is clear to you?
Yes. Sir, what was the issue between the two, Saint Simon and Augustine?
I don't know what exactly took place between the two, but that's I will have to check into the history, like what exactly took place between the two. That I don't know, but yes, they were both depressed in their life. Saint Simon, he tried to do suicide. Saint Simon perhaps he shot his head with a revolver, but he sustained the injuries. He did not die. His one eye was listening. So Saint Simon, he tried to do suicide. He killed himself. See, such great men. One of them tried to do suicide. Even Auguste Comte, he was so depressed in his life. Even he jumped into the river once to kill himself. But again, he survived. And ultimately, even Émile Durkheim, even he had a very tragic end in his life. When he didn't do suicide, but even Émile Durkheim was not much happy towards the last phase of his life. So anyway, I don't exactly know why they broke up, what caused them break up. Maybe because of some, I don't exactly know that thing. That's not in your syllabus, but that was just a tale to end it. Okay, I will definitely in the next class I will tell you this. I will try to get into it. Okay, so this so far is clear. So Auguste Comte, we want to give you two examples of positivism which you must include in your answers. One is Auguste Comte's famous theory of law of three stages of society. Auguste Comte is more famous for giving philosophy of positivism. What do you mean by philosophy of positivism? He's just telling about a little bit in vague what positivism should look like. Émile Durkheim is actually going to implement it. So Émile Durkheim is more famous for methodology of positivism. If there is a question on positivism, positivist methodology, then give more emphasis to Émile Durkheim. If there is a question on positivist philosophy, give more emphasis on Auguste Comte. Okay. So Auguste Comte, he comes out with his, can I erase this thing?
Yes.
Can I erase these things? Okay. So we're just moving towards the end. So law of three stages of society, this is very famous. Who gave this? Law of three stages of society. Who gave this?
August Comte.
Okay. So what he said in it?
There are three stages which society is passing through.
Very good. It's fine, no problem. So we'll just do that.
Scientific, metaphysical.
I gave you these three examples. When you were very much trouble in your life, you could have gone to a priest, or you could have gone to a philosopher friend, or you could have gone to a scientist. Just parallel to these three. I had given you this example deliberately. So in the first, Auguste Comte says that every society and everything in this world, even our concept of something, our knowledge, it passes through three stages. Now pay attention. Huh?
Religious.
Yeah. The first stage is religious. Every society, it passes through religious, or what he rather used the word theological stage. The second is metaphysical stage. And the third is scientific, for which he used the word positivist. Scientific or positivist. Okay, so early men, they used to have faith on God, everything was explained in terms of God. Somewhere in the middle centuries we see philosophers coming into prominence, and after now we see that there is an emphasis on scientific and positivist explanation. So that's why we say that every society is going through it. Even our body of knowledge is going through these three stages. Like fire. If I give an example of fire, what is fire? In the initial stages, in Hindu religion, what is fire said to be? Fire is said to be a manifestation of God Agni. Okay, there is a God Agni which is supposed to be manifest fire. Then in metaphysical age, if we say, so the metaphysical explanation would be that fire symbolizes purity. Fire symbolizes purity. Fire symbolizes truth, passion, purity, passion. We say, no, there's a lot of fire in this person. We say these things, that fire symbolizes passion. Fire symbolizes truth. Sita had to cross fire, Agni, for Agni Pariksha, to establish her purity, demonstrate her purity. And in the third phase, what do we say? Fire is nothing, it's just combustion. Yes, right, it's chemical activity. When carbon or compounds of carbon, when they are oxidized in the presence of oxygen, it leads to, then CO2 is born, then CO2 is, it results into CO2, emission of CO2. So this is a chemical explanation of fire. Similarly, light, if we talk about light, another example, light. You must write down these examples. Light, what is the theological explanation of light? That when Bible says, when God created earth, then after creating of earth, he said one statement, let there be light, and light was there. Okay, this is the explanation in Bible. God said, let there be light, and there was light. What would be a metaphysical explanation of light? That light symbolizes hope. Light symbolizes optimism. That's why we use a word, a ray of hope. We say that there is darkness. Darkness means there is no hope. Light means there is hope. So metaphysical explanation would be light represents hope. And third, what is the present explanation? It's a scientific explanation that life is something like a wave, or light is the fastest thing, the fastest speed which anything can achieve is light, and light travels at a speed of say 2.97 into 10 raised to power into 10 into raised to power 6. Yeah, 2.97 I wrote. Yeah, 3 into 10 raised to power 6 meter per second. 8. Okay, just check that out. So this is a scientific explanation. This is a scientific explanation of light. This is a metaphysical. This is a theological. So in this way, our concept of mind also change, right? And that even when you are a child, initially you will attribute everything to God. When you will be young, maybe a little grown-up child, then metaphysical, and then when you are grown up, then everything you know, the scientific explanation. So this is how the society is proceeding, and that is why Auguste Comte was so much fascinated that in the end we have scientific age, and in the scientific age, only what will rule in the world? The only thing which will rule in the world is science, and that's why queen of all sciences has emerged, and that's why sociology is the supreme science, supreme body of knowledge. It will be able to explain everything. Positivists wanted to say that sociology would be able to explain everything, every problem, what is existing in our society. Fine. And now, last example, one small examples which you can give is that this is philosophy of, this is still philosophy of positivism. This is implemented by Durkheim. How this is implemented by Durkheim? Durkheim view would be slightly different, somewhat different. Durkheim is more famous for methodology of positivism, and he would say that we shouldn't deal into any armchair analysis. We should talk about only facts. Now Durkheim example is very important to quote, because, and what Durkheim would say, he will talk about social facts. And what are facts? They are external to individuals. And facts, his emphasis on facts, see the word facts. He wrote a book, Rules of Sociological Methods. Okay, so he's more famous for, Durkheim wrote a book, Rules of Sociological Method. And finally, when you can give some examples of Durkheim study, you must have studied how Durkheim studied suicide. Durkheim gave an explanation of suicide. And see, suicide, what is suicide? Suicide is when a person kills himself. It's supposed to be completely individual action, but no. Durkheim was able to demonstrate that how this is, yeah, suicide. So Durkheim was able to demonstrate that even suicide is not just an individual action, but it is also depending upon other social factors, and how he showed this thing. He went to hospitals or courts or police stations. He compiled some data from the government sources, and using that data, he demonstrated how suicide is. He gave a sociological explanation to suicide. He said that why suicide rate is higher in, say, unmarried man or more than married men, or say why more in Catholicism or more in Protestantism and less in Catholicism. Or he come up with a graph on the basis of regulation and on the basis of integration. We will take this thing in detail on Durkheim's study of suicide. The point is that Durkheim's study of suicide is a classic example of positivism, because it is based upon facts taken from government records. Okay. So this is our study of positivism. Quickly, we are going to rewind this. That positivism is a doctrine which says science should study only those things which it can study directly, which it can observe directly. Okay. What is positivism in sociology? Positivism in sociology is a belief that sociology can be like science. Sociology should be like science. Sociology should do what science. Sociology should study how science is studying its subjects. There is a lot of similarity. What are those sociological methods? Experiments, doing cause-effect analysis, doing comparative analysis. What are the features of positivism? Positivism, there is a love for quantification. They reject common sense. They reject prejudices. They promote value neutrality, objectivity. These kind of things they are promoted in positivism. Then positivism, the second most important aspect is general laws. That positivism, it wants to come out with general laws of society. Okay. They took inspiration from the scientists who were very popular, like Newton, or their discoveries like those laws of laws of motion, planetary laws, biological evolution, survival of fittest, all those theories, grand theories. So they were inspired by them, and they wanted that using scientific methods we should come out with general laws of society. Using these general laws of society we should be able to predict the future. And using this knowledge we can know when to intervene, how to intervene in the society to get a better society. What was the goal of positivists? To get a better society, to improve the state of society, to get rid of the chaos which was there in the society. Just like you want to get rid of the chaos which is there in your mind, so that ultimately you become happy. Okay, and just like so that they could also be happy. Very important thing in the end, Saint-Simon was teacher of Auguste Comte. Auguste Comte was teacher of Emile Durkheim. They were not all surviving through the same period. Okay, so little overlap was there, but definitely they were 3 different generations. Okay, do you want to write anything? You can, that definition or something? Huh? You jot it down? That positivism, if you want to write, I can dictate to it if you want. Okay, I will be providing you these notes. You can take these notes and for your information. Okay, so whatever we have discussed these far, you can get it photo stated. You all can get photo stated, or I will ask the authorities. Okay, you can keep these things. Okay, rather I will give you these handwritten notes. These are even better. Okay, these are handwritten notes for the same subject, and you all can use this for the subject. And in the next class we will carry out the criticism of positivism. And remember, for that, brief up, revise these things. I am giving in 1 or 2 minutes. I am giving a brief snapshot of what we are going to discuss in the next class. How criticism would be there. There are 3 kind of criticism. There are 3 kind of views. When someone says that, if suppose you say, hi, I am science. Suppose you say science, there can be 3 kind of reaction to it. One is positivists. Positivists would simply love it when somebody says that I am science. Okay, trying to make cartoons, but somehow, okay, that will be the reaction of positivists. They are a group of people who are said to be non-positivists, and they would be somewhat neutral. They would say, okay, scientific methods fine, but we need little more than that. These are non-positivists. These are positivists. And finally, we have a third category who will just frown upon you if you say that I'm science. They just hate science. They just don't want sociology to be closer to science in any respect. They say that scientific methods are counterproductive, that scientific methods will kill the very idea for which we need a discipline like sociology. So what are the different grounds for criticism? This will, what we are going to discuss in the next class, in 1 minute I'm telling you. We are going to criticize this thing on different parameters. First, we are going to criticize this thing on one reason, that sociology cannot be like science because science is different, sociology is different. One ground will be this. They both belong to a different world. Second ground will be, we will criticize scientific methods themselves. We will say that science itself is not following those things which it's promoting. Third criticism will be, we will criticize these general laws. What we will say is that these general laws of society, it's very difficult to formulate. You cannot have general laws of society. It's very difficult to formulate. There's no point formulating these general laws. Then somewhere I gave you this example of Durkheim, who went up to government records for his study. Now what are these government records? Will government records ever speak something bad about the government? Government will usually try not to give any such data which speaks bad about it. Crime record, everything, police, it will never show that kind of record. It will manipulate the record. So on the basis of this, you cannot get an accurate picture. So positivism is status quoist. It is pro-establishment. It is supporting the government. That is one criticism. Other is that that everything you cannot explain on the basis of science. Somewhere we need objectivity. Just like you are very sad in your life, would you be very happy if someone is just noting down everything in points? You would say, come on man, hear me, listen to me, interpret my life. Just have a subjective understanding. Because it's not possible to get an objective understanding of everything. A person needs to come in your place, imagine how your life is, then only he can realize what the problems in life is. Okay? So on these different grounds and many other different grounds, we will see that how positivism is criticized in sociology. So with this, I wind up. Any other last question before we wind up the class? Thank you all. Thank you for this class.